Last time we focused on counterpoint, hearing multiple independent lines. Today we're going to focus on helping you hear color change. So, what happens when something moves from piano to violin? Can you hear that internally? So, the first step, the thing I'd like you to do, is to just close your eyes and to imagine yourself in a concert hall or a theater. Imagine there's a pianist on stage and they reach out and they play a single tone. What does that sound like? What was the articulation they used? How did it decay? Was it short? Did they use the pedal? Think of as many different criteria as you can and try and imagine this piano sound in great detail. Have the pianist just play this note over and over again in a steady rhythm with the same articulation each time. Now, have them try and increase the sound. Gradually, it's getting louder and louder and louder. And now it's getting quieter and quieter and quieter. Okay, now hold that same tone in your mind. Now we're going to shift. We're going to change the voice. We want to hear a different sound. So hear the pianist play that note one more time. And now imagine there's a trumpet player on stage. And that trumpet player mimics the sound of the piano. So you hear the piano first. Now you hear the trumpet player playing the same note with the same articulation. They're imitating each other. Just go back and forth. This is a brassy, bold sound. It's cutting through the air. Focus on the difference in energy between the piano and the trumpet, no matter how clear it is. Try and hear the piano first and then the trumpet, whatever you can hear. Do this 3 times where they go back and forth. So piano, trumpet, piano, trumpet, piano, trumpet. Each time that you hear it, emphasize a different musical quality. So let's do this together. Okay, hear the piano. Focus on the brightness of the piano sound, the relative brightness. If it's a dark sound, you focus on that. So whether it's bright or dark, you focus on that quality. Now, emulate that quality in the trumpet player. You take a breath, they play the note. Can you match the brightness with the trumpet and the piano? Go ahead and try it again. Piano, then trumpet. Focus on the brightness. Okay, now we're going to go back to the piano. Focus on the power of the piano, the relative strength or lack of strength, whatever that pianist is using to approach that instrument. Play the note, hear it on the piano. Now match that level of power with the trumpet so they're at the same level. Finally, the pianist plays again. Notice the articulation. How do they start the note? Now hear it on the trumpet. Try and match the articulation of the piano. Now, the last time, see if you can put all 3 of these together: the brightness, the power, and the articulation. How'd you do on that? You can pause the video for a moment and reflect on this. Now, let's go ahead and shift again. We're going to add a third person to the stage. We are a pianist, our trumpet player, and now a violinist. Have the piano play their tone. Hear it clearly. Now the trumpet. Now match that same tone with a violin. Try and make it sound as much as you can like the other instruments, the way that they are performing it, but with the violin sound. Imagine the bow moving across the strings as the violinist plays that tone. Okay, now move from piano to trumpet to violin. I'm going to guide you through this. So hear the piano, trumpet, violin. Piano, the finger moves to the key. Trumpet, they take a breath, exhale, and play. Violinist, they pull their bow across the string. Again, piano, trumpet, violin. One more time. Piano, trumpet, violin. Now, I'm not going to cue you for each one. You know you're going from piano to trumpet to violin. Try and connect the sounds. So you hear the piano, it decays a little, and then the trumpet decays in the same way, and then the violin takes over. So it's one continuous stream of sound that is gently moving from piano to trumpet to violin, using the same articulations, same length, same decay as whatever you hear on the primary instrument, the piano. So go ahead and try that. Try it one more time. Piano, trumpet, violin, same note. Okay, now have the pianist change your articulation. Make it as soft as possible. So you're going to hear the piano, trumpet, and violin matching volume. Go ahead and try that. Try it again. Now play it aggressively. Have the piano hit that note as hard as possible. And then the trumpet with a harsh articulation that matches the piano and violin. Here we go. Try it on piano, then trumpet, then violin. Try it one more time. Now, see if you can hear the piano and the trumpet at the same time. One way to do this is start the piano and then have the trumpet come in right after. If you're having trouble hearing them at the same exact time, try that first. Piano, then trumpet. Go ahead and try that. And gently move them until you can hear them articulate at the same time. Can you combine their tones? You hear a little bit of the piano and the trumpet at the same time. You see them on the stage. They're coming from different spatial regions of the stage. Now, can you add the violin if you need to? You do it quickly. Piano, trumpet, violin, where they all sustain. So at the end, you hear all three timbres. Go ahead and try it. Now, finally, imagine an entire choir fills the back row, and they're all singing the same exact note as the piano, trumpet, and violin. Hear the choir just singing on awe. Now go piano, trumpet, violin, choir. Try it again, piano, trumpet, violin, choir. Okay, now try and hear it all at once. If you can't hear it all at once, you hear the piano first, and then immediately after trumpet, immediately after that violin, and then choir. So you arpeggiate them very quickly, and you try and hold the other tones as you do this. Go ahead and try that. We're trying to combine the timbres of these four groups. So now try and hold those tones in your mind, all four groups, all at once. Do you notice any changes as you focus on each instrument? Does the tone feel brighter, darker, or more grand on one instrument than another? Does one particular timbre stand out, bleed through more obviously? Is one stronger? Write down or just think of a single word for each instrument that describes the emotion or color that you felt. Just describe what you experienced here. Each timbre, piano, trumpet, violin, choir, they all come with their own emotional weight. Even when you're trying to make them sound with the same articulation, the same dynamic, same level of power, they have different sounds that make them feel emotionally different when we listen to them. Was there one particular group that you liked more than the others? Was there one that was easier for you to produce? Was it easier for you to do the trumpet or the piano or the violin or the choir? It's probably going to come down to what you're most familiar with. But this is what we do. We start with a single note and we go through exercises like this to try and change the timbre while not changing the articulation. So we're controlling what we're hearing. We're not just letting anything come to us. And what we want to do is gradually increase our ability to hear a single tone like this in great detail. And once you can hear multiple different instruments, then you can do this with melodies. And you can combine instruments on the same melody to start to hear what multiple instruments sound like together. But we start simple. We start with a single note and we start with single instruments so that we are ready to actually hear this in full color. So you can do this with as many different instruments as you can, but I recommend you start with two. Once you can hear those two clearly, you go to three and you go to four. And this is sort of the bridge to hearing harmony, something which a lot of you are asking about. You say, I can hear melodies, I need to be able to hear harmony. It's a process, and this is part of the process. So master this particular skill first, and then we can get into harmony in later lessons. Keep practicing this technique. Try this with an entire melody. Go from one note to the next note. Create a melody, play it on the piano, and then have the trumpet play it, and then have the violin play it, and then have the choir play it. And keep going through and maybe keep changing the instruments once you get good at this. You can either use a melody that you already know, or even better, just make up one on the spot. It doesn't have to be a masterpiece. Just repeat the process: piano, trumpet, violin, choir. And you want to push your boundaries eventually. Once you've got those four timbres down or whatever four fundamental colors you want to work with, if you work in a band and you have particular instruments in that band, go with those instruments first. It doesn't matter what instruments you choose, but pick no more than four at first, master those. And remember, you master one, maybe the piano, and then you try and hear two. Once you can hear two fairly clearly, doesn't have to be perfect, you add the third, and then once you can hear three, you add the fourth. So it doesn't have to be perfect, because what happens here is the more you practice it with different instruments, the more your brain starts to try and figure out what you're actually doing, which is trying to hear these different timbres. So for each one, just pause and notice the changes that you feel, the emotional change between each instrument. And if you get stuck, you just open your eyes, breathe, start again. There's no wrong answer. Once you have mastered the ability to hear one timbre, then two, then three, then four, go back to that silent counterpoint exercise, the one right before this in the inner ear audiation playlist, and use this technique to change what you're hearing to different instrument timbres. This is how you start to get really good at hearing the full color and vibrancy of orchestra instruments or whatever ensemble you need to work with. I'll see you next time.